Welcome back to the activation phase. Today we're looking into every faction's playstyle for Saga Age of Invasions. This is a general overview over all the factions and their playstyle, and it's supposed to be a guide. First off, we have the Saxons. They are a very melee-focused warband with a very melee-focused battleboard. They need lots of Hearthguard. They love their personal champion mercenary, and they only work on foot, so they can only take foot guys. Their key abilities are Furor to handle fatigue, so you dish your fatigue, but your opponent gets attack dice, which is okay if you use it on your warlord or your personal champion, very good. And then the Storm breaks, that helps you just to charge with no fatigue, put a rare on here, charge 2 units with no fatigue, and very good. Tools and tricks they have Vivacity, so you can move up in your opponent's turn. That just means you need one less activation in your turn, and it doesn't generate fatigue, so that can help. And Insignificant, it's just your units want to multi-charge, want to go into melee more than once per turn. So this can help to take fatigue off at the end of the first melee to just charge again after that, to kind of have a multi-charging Death Star in your army if you want it. Their current strength, probably low to medium. They're very one-dimensional, they just want to charge. They die to shooting easily, and so having strong melee is good, but they don't have lots of shooting defense, so that can definitely be difficult. Talking about shooting, next up are the Sassanids. They love their elephants, and they can have very high quality shooting. They're very good at killing units in solid cover, which is rare. Their key abilities are Second Wind to keep the elephants alive, just taking a fatigue off in your and then in your opponent's turn, just super strong and can definitely turn the battle around for you. And then Flames of Atar to deny charges. So if you stay out of 10 inches of your opponent, once they start coming close, they have to move in 6, then you shoot them, and then their charge can only be 4 inches, so they can't quite make it with two activations. And so that can be super annoying, because your shots in your opponent's turn can be very, very brutal. So having these extra shots, very good. Tools and tricks these guys have. They have Airman's Curse and Shadow in the East. That's just, you're gonna bump up one very good shooting attack. Just more attack dice, better buffs, ignore cover, ignore the give a -1 to the saves. So a unit in solid cover would not get the armor bonus, and instead of saving in 3s, they will be saving on 5s. So big difference. And one neat trick they have is Volley Fire to put your horses, the composite bow horses, into terrain. So a unit with composite bow horses can count as having bows, and so they can walk into terrain without taking a fatigue, and they can benefit from the terrain bonus and everything. So that can be very, very good. Their current strength, about medium. Sometimes the elephant, if you're going to shoot the army, they just die. You can remove as many fatigues as you want, they will just die. And their Cataphract Hearthguard can be useful, but I think are tricky to play, and so I would give them a medium. Next up are the Britons. They have a very important warlord. They need to stay close together, and they have very strong abilities as long as they are buffed by the warlord. So these guys really like their warlord. The warlord himself can be very fighty, and he can make the units around him very fighty. Their key abilities are Britannia, so you can charge a unit in with that's galvanized, and they will count as being galvanized for the melee, even though they might not be within range of your warlord anymore. And Wall of Steel, it's just these guys need to generate attack dice, and it's just a cheap way to generate attack dice as long as the unit's galvanized, so that's good. Tools and tricks these guys have. Call to Arms just keeps your army together. You can just move up a unit next to your wall very quickly, easy, and just move them very far. So you can just make sure everybody has the buffs they need through this. And then Tenacious, as long as you're galvanized, the automatic casualty removal makes it so good. So you just deny a casualty that you suffered through this and have defense dice, so very good. Their current strength, low to medium. They have the problem of really, really needing their warlord, and so even though the board is designed to make him charge in and everything, you kind of have a problem with risking that, because if he dies, you basically have a very big problem. And so that playstyle isn't really rewarded that much, but is kind of the playstyle what the board is designed for, and that can be very difficult to pull off. And then also, these guys want to be close together to have the buffs on everything, on everybody, and so that's difficult. Next up, we have the Franks. They work the best with warriors, so warrior spam is super good with the Franks. And they are best played into warriors or levies. So as long as the opponent has levies or warriors, these guys will have a fun time. They can build momentum and get stronger, and they have a very cheap multi-activation. Their key abilities of show of force and momentum. So show of force allows you to place markers down, and then you want to start winning melees. And once you won 3 melees in the game, you can pop momentum, give your units determination, +1 to their attack dice, and just kind of wreck shit. It's like you're gonna build momentum, get stronger the longer the game goes, as long as you're winning melees. And then the Frankish people is their very good, cheap multi-activation, very useful to get you guys into melee. Tools and tricks they have. They have Mund to shut down an important shot. So one shot you can just take 6 or 3 attack dice away. That also works in melee, but shooting can be very devastating to lose 6 attack dice, especially for the Sassanids, for example, with a buffed up shot, or maybe the Irish. And then Moment of Doubt and Impact, it's a nice combo. You can use this into Hearthguard to lower their armor with Moment of Doubt, and then Impact makes them count as having armor 4, and so you generate extra attack dice on the charge. Very good. Their current strength is about medium. It really, really depends on their opponent. Because if you're bringing warriors, you're bringing lots of warriors, so if the opponent only has Hearthguard, you're going to have a tough time counting as the winner in a melee, because you're probably losing more guys than your opponent. But if your opponent's bringing warriors, and you have buffed up melees, or if they're bringing levies, then you can win these. And so your momentum will build quicker and is very strong. Next up are the Goths. They really want to take warriors and Hearthguard, like a good mix of the two. Don't really need the levies. They basically ignore the whole downside to fatigue. The minigame of managing your fatigue is just gone with the Goths, kind of. It's just turned around. They have very powerful abilities, and they're very deadly in melee. Their key abilities are Resolve, to charge and turning off fatigue. So if you charge with this, the opponent can't use the fatigue, and so all your abilities that benefit from you having fatigue, they are there with no downside. Your opponent can't use the fatigue anyway, so you might as well give yourself the fatigue. And then immunity makes yourself basically untouchable. You inflict a fatigue to deny casualties after rolling defense dice. It's super powerful. Tools and tricks they have Eye of the Hurricane to deal with fatigue, so you remove fatigue from your own units and also fatigue from your opponent's units. But this just, you can make sure you take the fatigue off where you need a fresh unit, and then you take the fatigue off of an enemy unit, maybe with a banner or the warlord who's just going to rest anyway. And then Grazia makes everything very tough. As long as they have fatigue, the +1 to their defense dice is super powerful. Their current strength, very strong. Being able to be super aggressive, being able to be quite defensive, makes these guys a menace to play into if you have a melee warband. Next up we have the Huns. They work best all mounted. They have composite bow warriors on mass, maybe levies on horses, metal levies on horses as well. They deal out incredible amounts of fatigue. They dish fatigue left and right wherever they can. They have so many abilities that interact with fatigue, almost all of them. Their key abilities are the Endless Horde. It's just a cheap multi-activation with no fatigue. 3 units, just move them, give them no fatigue. It's super good on composite bow warriors, of course. Move them in, shoot, and then out again. Or move them in and then shoot, and then further in, and then shoot again. Super good. Then Weak Spot. It's a multi-activation for a charge or a shoot that benefits from fatigue the opponent has. And so this, since you're dishing out so much fatigue anyway, this can be super powerful. Then death comes from above. It's just, you're going to be shooting anyway, so might as well pop a fatigue on your opponent while you're doing it for free. Tools and tricks they have. Rain of Arrows is just builds very strong combos. Your abilities get stronger the more fatigue your opponent has, and Rain of Arrows makes every opposing unit count as having one fatigue more than they actually do, and so it can be very, very good and be worth it. And then lassos to move fatigue around. Sometimes you end up with a single levy with a fatigue because the melee went well, and then that one fatigue is just lost. But with the Huns, you can just move that fatigue from him onto the opposing warlord or anything really. So even these lost fatigues you can use with the Huns and make them work for you. So overall, they're very strong. They're an amazing warlord killer. They can dish out so many fatigues that the elephants just die, warlords die. There's nothing they can do because it's so much fatigue in one turn. Very, very powerful, and so current strength, very strong. Next up, we have the Picts. They work best with lots of terrain. They have very good activations, and they're very fast through terrain. They have good shooting that can be buffed by the board, and levies with crossbows are always good. Their key abilities are scouts, to just quickly move, just ignore terrain, everything, just move around large, and you can even charge after this. And feint, to shut down any major blow you could suffer, just a +1 to your defense dice. Super powerful to just keep your guys alive as long as your opponent has enough attack dice to make it count. Very good. Tools and tricks they have. Secret Ways allows for some surprises. You can basically teleport one of your units after they were shot or charged, and so you can use this to build new shields or just move your guys around to bring them wherever you need them. This can be very annoying and break charges your opponent maybe has set up. And then Swift as the Wind. It's very good to charge with no fatigue. As long as there's terrain in the area, you charge with no fatigue, and so this is very good, especially after moving 12 inches with the scouts through terrain and everything. Their current strength, strong, maybe very strong. They love the guide mercenaries to put an additional piece of terrain down, and that can really help. And as long as you know how to play the terrain game, these guys can be very strong, and they're definitely strong. Next up are the Romans. They use Impetus as an additional resource, so it's just an additional resource you have on your battle board that you need to manage. They can shoot very far because they have the Manu Ballista, and also their normal warriors can shoot insane amounts. They have lots of equipment options, which is very good. You can just use the equipment options to kind of tailor your army to your opponent, but this can also mean that you need to paint a lot of stuff. Their key abilities are Combined Formation to shoot incredibly far, so one of your units can just pick a unit nearby and then pick any point on that friendly unit nearby to shoot all your shots from that point. So that means if you kind of conga line your units and like stretch them out, your guys can shoot over 30 inches easily. And then in this sign Conquer, the auto hits are super strong, considering if you only put a uncommon on here and then an uncommon to put the impetus back up to 4, it's 4 auto hits for 2 uncommons, which is super good, especially in shooting. And if you're going into an important melee into Hearthguard or Warlord, this can be super good. Tools and tricks, they have Adversity for additional Saga dice, so it's a rare for possibly 3 Saga dice, which is good, better value than the activation pool has for the other factions. You just have to kind of manage your impetus very well to get this. And then Furtus, to disable enemy Death Stars, punish them for shooting multiple times or charging. Can be very annoying into Huns or other factions that want to multi-charge. They definitely don't like that. Their current strength, medium, maybe slightly low. They have the problem of handling an additional resource. The impetus is kind of expensive in some situations and can be tough to manage. And so for the average player, this can be definitely slightly low, but if you master them, they can definitely be medium for sure. That was all the factions of Saga Age of Invasions. We hope you enjoyed. Let us know what you think. Is there anything you would disagree with? Would you rank them differently? Let us know your thoughts. And thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.